The quantum echo of 15 million lives winked out of existence in less time than it took to draw a breath. New Santiago Colony, a jewel of human expansion nestled in the Orion Arm, became nothing more than a rapidly expanding cloud of subatomic dust. Captain Maya Chen stood motionless on the bridge of the U.S. Resilience, her augmented neural interface flooding with the last desperate transmissions from the colony. Fragments of lives cut short, a child's laughter, a lover's whispered goodbye, the final desperate communications of defense coordinators, crashed through her consciousness like razor-sharp waves. Most would have been paralyzed. Maya Chen was not most people. Her dark eyes, enhanced with quantum-linked retinal displays, rapidly processed the incoming data streams. Each lost life wasn't just a statistic, it was a quantum signature, a complex network of memories, connections, and potential that the alien convergence believed it could simply erase. They were wrong. The bridge crew of the Resilience moved with a synchronicity that would have seemed impossible to any other species. No verbal commands were necessary. Their neural networks, a web of biological and technological connections that transcended traditional communication, hummed with a singular purpose. Lieutenant Marcus Rodriguez, no relation to the renowned Dr. Elena Rodriguez, initiated the quantum communication protocols. His fingers danced across holographic interfaces that seemed to anticipate his movements. Behind him, a wall of quantum processors began to spin up, not just computing systems, but living networks that drew power from the collective emotional state of the crew. Quantum signature analysis complete, Marcus announced, his voice steady despite the horror of what they'd just witnessed. New Santiago's final quantum imprint is unusual. Captain Chen raised an eyebrow. In their line of work, unusual was often the prelude to a breakthrough. The massive alien warship that had delivered the destruction now hung in space, a geometric nightmare of impossible angles and materials that seemed to defy the basic principles of matter. Its communication systems crackled to life, a sound that was more mathematical equation than language. Civilization designation: human. Threat level: neutralized. Surrender is advised. Resistance is mathematically impossible. The transmission was clinical, devoid of any emotion. The convergence viewed existence as a complex mathematical problem to be solved, with civilizations as mere variables to be eliminated if they did not conform to predetermined parameters. Maya Chen's response was something they could never have anticipated. She laughed. It started as a low chuckle that transformed into a full-throated laugh of pure, defiant humanity. The sound reverberated through the ship's quantum communication network, sending ripples of complex emotional data that the alien systems could not comprehend. "You don't understand humans at all," she said, her words carrying a weight that transcended the simple acoustic transmission. Behind her, the ship's quantum communicators began to spin up. But this was no mere technological network. It was a living, breathing tapestry of human connection that defied every known law of physics and strategic warfare. Each crew member was more than an individual. They were a node in a complex, emotional network that drew strength from loss, from connection, from a fundamental unwillingness to be truly separated. The convergence had just made a critical error. They had not destroyed a colony. They had awakened something far more dangerous. They had given humanity a reason to fight. Dr. Elena Rodriguez's makeshift laboratory looked nothing like the sterile research facilities of the Galactic Concordance. Scattered across industrial-grade workstations were fragments of quantum processors, biological neural network prototypes, and walls covered in complex diagrams that seemed to pulse with an almost living energy. The survivors of New Santiago were her team. And they were anything but a traditional research group. Jian Wei, a former colony defense engineer, sat hunched over a quantum resonance analyzer. Half his body was cybernetic, a testament to previous battles, each augmentation a memory of survival. Beside him, Dr. Aisha Okoy, a trauma psychologist with neural implants that allowed her to map emotional landscapes like topographical maps, ran complex simulations that defied traditional scientific methodology. The quantum dissolution weapon shouldn't be possible, Jiang muttered, his augmented eye flickering with streams of data. It doesn't just destroy matter. It unravels the fundamental quantum signatures of existence. Aisha's response was immediate, but that's precisely why it's vulnerable. No weapon that operates at a quantum level can be completely isolated from emotional resonance. The weapon was a nightmare of alien engineering. The Convergence had used it to eliminate 127 civilizations across 3 galaxies. It worked by creating a quantum cascade that literally pulled apart the atomic structure of entire planetary systems, reducing complex matter to a fine quantum dust in milliseconds. Most species would have surrendered. Humans were not most species. Marcus Liu, the young quantum physicist who had survived New Santiago by pure chance, approached a massive holographic display. His fingers danced across quantum-linked interfaces, pulling apart the weapon's theoretical framework with an intuition that bordered on the supernatural. "Look," he said, his voice cutting through the tense atmosphere. "The weapon operates on a principle of quantum isolation. It treats each atomic structure as a discrete, disconnected unit." Alina Rodriguez moved closer, her eyes sharp with a combination of scientific curiosity and deeply personal rage. The colony had been her home. Her family had been among those erased in an instant. "Isolation," she repeated. The word hung in the air like a challenge. Marcus's next revelation was nothing short of revolutionary. Humans don't operate on principles of isolation. We're fundamentally a connected species. Our very consciousness is a network, not a discrete unit. The team fell silent. They were no longer just scientists. They were survivors. Each had lost something in the destruction of New Santiago. Family, friends, entire life frameworks. But in that loss, they had discovered something the Convergence could never understand. Jiang's cybernetic hand clenched. "We're not just going to study this weapon. We're going to turn it against them." Aisha's neural implants began to spin up, mapping complex emotional landscapes that translated human connection into quantum data. Every loss creates a connection. Every grief generates a quantum resonance. What if we could weaponize that? The lab hummed with a new kind of energy. This wasn't just research. This was revenge. This was survival. This was fundamentally human. Marcus positioned a small quantum processor, salvaged from the colony's ruins, at the center of their experimental array. The weapon treats matter as isolated units. But what if matter isn't isolated? What if everything is connected? Alina Rodriguez looked at her team. Survivors, scientists, humans. "Then," she said, a dangerous light in her eyes, "we're going to rewrite the laws of physics." Outside the lab, the universe waited. The Convergence believed they had won. They had no idea what was coming. The Military Reconstruction Center looked more like a living organism than a traditional command base. Holographic interfaces pulsed with bioneural networks, displaying not just tactical information, but the intricate emotional connections between soldiers, support staff, and their extended networks. Colonel Camara Williams stood at the center of this organic war machine, her neural implants processing information at speeds that would have been impossible a decade ago. The resonance doctrine was more than a military strategy. It was a fundamental reimagining of human collective potential. Traditional military units had been replaced by what the strategists called empathy cells, teams structured not around traditional hierarchies, but around emotional support networks. Each cell was a living, breathing ecosystem of mutual protection and collective intelligence. A young lieutenant approached, her augmented display showing the complex quantum emotional signatures of her unit. "Colonel," she reported, "our latest psychological recalibration shows a 237% increase in adaptive response potential." Camara nodded. The numbers told a story of something far more profound than military efficiency. They spoke of human connection, the ability to transform trauma into strength, loss into resolve. In the observation deck, Dr. Alina Rodriguez worked alongside military psychologists and quantum engineers. Their work blurred the lines between warfare, psychology, and fundamental physics. Each soldier was more than a weapon. They were a node in a living network of human resilience. The Convergence sees war as a mathematical problem. Elena explained to a group of alien military observers who had been granted limited access. We see it as a collective experience of survival. The alien representatives, crystalline beings from the Nexus Collective, struggled to comprehend. Their tactical systems were based on pure probabilistic calculations. Humans introduced something entirely unexpected: emotional complexity as a tactical advantage. Drone swarms no longer operated on individual programming. Instead, they functioned as an extension of human consciousness. When one drone was destroyed, the emotional feedback didn't cause panic. It triggered a coordinated, almost telepathic response. The drones moved like a school of fish, like a flock of birds, like a single living organism. Marcus Liu demonstrated the technology to the bewildered alien observers. A holographic display showed multiple drone units responding to a simulated attack. Where other species would see individual units, humans had created a collective consciousness. "Watch," Marcus said, his fingers dancing across the interface. "It's not about individual survival. It's about collective preservation." A drone was destroyed in the simulation. Immediately, the remaining units didn't scatter or retreat. They compressed into a tighter formation, their movement guided by the emotional resonance of their remote operators. Loss didn't mean defeat, it meant adaptation. The alien observers' communication arrays flickered with confusion. Their tactical databases had no category for this type of warfare. Colonel Williams understood something fundamental. Human strength wasn't about individual capability. It was about the network, the invisible threads of connection that transformed a group of individuals into something far more powerful. "Every soldier carries the stories of those who came before," she would often say. "Every loss becomes a source of strength." In the simulation room, the drone swarm continued its impossible dance. Mathematical probability gave way to something more profound: a living, breathing manifestation of human collective consciousness. The Convergence had made a critical error. They thought they were fighting individual humans. They were about to learn they were fighting something entirely different: a single, planet-spanning organism of collective will. The Battle of Proxima Centauri was never supposed to be winnable. 37 human colonies stood in the direct path of the Convergence's most sophisticated attack fleet. Standard tactical projections gave humanity a 0.3% chance of survival. The alien war strategists had calculated this with mathematical precision, accounting for every variable they could comprehend. They had not accounted for human unpredictability. Marcus Liu's quantum research team operated from the command ship Prometheus, a vessel that was more living neural network than traditional spacecraft. Its hull was lined with quantum adaptive membranes that could literally reshape themselves based on collective emotional input from the crew. "Incoming quantum cascade," Lieutenant Aria Chen called out, her voice calm despite the imminent destruction. Her neural implants were already spinning up complex defensive algorithms that defied every known principle of quantum mechanics. The first wave of the Convergence attack should have annihilated everything in its path. Quantum dissolution fields began to manifest, rippling waves of atomic deconstruction that had erased entire civilizations. But something extraordinary happened. Where the quantum cascade should have unraveled matter, it encountered something the Convergence could not predict. The human colonies didn't just resist, they transformed. Marcus watched in awe as the quantum data streams revealed an impossible phenomenon. Each colonial defense network was generating a quantum resonance field based on collective emotional states. Grief, love, determination. These weren't just abstract concepts. They were becoming literal quantum shields. "It's a feedback loop," he muttered, fingers flying across quantum interfaces. "The more they attack, the stronger we become." A colony ship that should have been instantly dissolved began to shift. Its molecular structure didn't just resist, it adapted. Quantum barriers formed not through technological intervention, but through the collective will of its inhabitants. An alien observation ship transmitted its findings in pure mathematical code. The translation was nothing short of terrifying. Observed. Human defensive capabilities exceed computational models. Probability of success. Indeterminate. Recommendation. Immediate strategic recalculation. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, watching the impossible unfold. Each destroyed colony wasn't just generating a defensive response, it was creating a complex quantum network that became stronger with each moment of collective struggle. They're turning loss into power, she explained to the stunned alien liaison officers. Every destroyed settlement becomes a node in a larger quantum network. The convergence attack waves began to destabilize. Where they should have expanded with perfect geometric precision, they now encountered quantum interference patterns that shouldn't exist. Mathematical predictions collapsed under the weight of human emotional complexity. Area Chen's voice cut through the chaos. Quantum resonance at 287% theoretical maximum. We're not just defending. We're fighting back. The colonies weren't just surviving. They were evolving. Marcus watched the quantum data streams with a mixture of scientific excitement and pure human defiance. The convergence had made a fundamental error in their calculations. They treated humans as a discrete, eliminable variable in a complex equation. Humans were the equation itself. As the battle reached its crescendo, the quantum dissolution fields began to collapse, not through technological countermeasures, but through something far more profound: the collective, immeasurable power of human connection. The universe itself seemed to pause and recalculate. Humanity was rewriting the fundamental laws of physics, one impossible moment at a time. The final battle was a symphony of quantum chaos, human defiance, and impossible physics. Captain Maya Chen stood on the bridge of the quantum resonance carrier Resilience, her neural interfaces humming with the collective consciousness of thousands of human minds. This was no longer just a ship. It was a living weapon, forged from the collective grief, hope, and determination of an entire species. Quantum cascade incoming, Lieutenant Rodriguez announced, his voice a calm counterpoint to the maelstrom of destruction surrounding them. Convergence primary attack vector calculating. The space around them was a canvas of impossible geometries. Convergence ships, massive crystalline structures that defied traditional understanding of matter and space, moved with mathematical precision. Their weapons were designed to unravel matter at its most fundamental level, to reduce entire civilizations to quantum dust. They had never encountered humanity. Maya's quantum communication network began to sing. It wasn't a metaphor. Actual sound, complex, multilayered, impossible to comprehend, began to emanate from the human fleet. Each ship was a note, each crew a harmonic resonance that pushed against the very fabric of physical reality. The convergence communication arrays went into immediate breakdown. Error. Computational model incompatible. Emotional variable. Unquantifiable. Defensive mechanism. Beyond probabilistic calculation. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, connected to the ship's primary quantum interface, understood what was happening. Humans weren't just fighting. They were transforming the very nature of the conflict. It's a quantum communication network, she explained to the stunned alien observation teams. But it's more than technology. It's memory. It's connection. It's everything we've ever lost. Each destroyed colony became a node in the network. Each life erased became a point of quantum resistance. The convergence had committed a critical error. They thought they could eliminate humanity by destroying its physical manifestations. They had no concept of human resilience. The Resilience moved unlike any ship in galactic history. It didn't just maneuver. It danced. Its quantum adaptive hull shifted and transformed, reading the collective emotional state of its crew and the broader human network. A convergence dissolution weapon fired. A beam of pure quantum destruction designed to unravel matter at its most fundamental level. The beam hit the Resilience and stopped. Not deflected, not absorbed. Stopped. The quantum cascade encountered something it could not comprehend. A network of human connection, so complex, so fundamentally different from any known defensive mechanism, that it simply could not progress. Marcus Liu's quantum algorithms were working in real time. Each moment of potential destruction was transformed into a quantum feedback loop. The more the convergence attacked, the stronger the human network became. "We're not just defending," Marcus muttered, his neural interfaces burning with quantum calculations. "We're rewriting the fundamental laws of physics." The human fleet wasn't a collection of ships. It was a single planet-spanning organism of collective consciousness. Each vessel moved with a synchronicity that defied traditional understanding of tactical coordination. Captain Chen's voice cut through the quantum chaos. "We are not your variables to eliminate." The convergence communication arrays began to break down. Mathematical models collapsed. Probabilistic calculations became meaningless. Humanity had introduced a fundamental variable that no alien species had ever encountered. An emotional quantum network that transformed loss into strength, connection into power, grief into resistance. The universe paused, and then it began to recalculate. The silence after the battle was more profound than the conflict itself. Quantum observatories across multiple galaxies recorded an event that defied every known principle of physics, communication, and existence. The convergence, a collective that had systematically eliminated 127 civilizations, had been fundamentally transformed by their encounter with humanity. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood before the Galactic Reconstruction Council, her presentation unlike any diplomatic communication in recorded history. Behind her, holographic displays showed complex quantum networks that pulsed with an almost living energy. "We didn't just win a war," she began, her voice carrying the weight of millions of lost lives. "We rewrote the fundamental understanding of consciousness." The council chambers represented species from across known space, crystalline beings, energy constructs, silicon-based intelligences. They listened with a combination of terror and unprecedented respect. Her presentation wasn't a military report. It was a quantum biography of human connection. Each holographic display showed how human consciousness operated on principles that made quantum mechanics look like elementary mathematics. Families torn apart by war had found each other across light years. Emotional connections had become a form of faster-than-light communication. Marcus Liu stepped forward, his quantum displays revealing the impossible. "Our neural networks don't just process information," he explained. "They transform it. Loss isn't an endpoint. It's a quantum gateway." The alien representatives struggled to comprehend. Their computational models showed humanity as an anomaly, a chaotic, seemingly self-destructive species that defied every known principle of collective behavior. They had been profoundly wrong. A representative from the Nexus Collective, a species of pure mathematical consciousness, attempted to interrupt. "Your data suggests impossible quantum entanglement. Emotional states cannot." Alina's response was immediate. A holographic display erupted with quantum signatures that showed how grief, love, and collective trauma could be transformed into a fundamental force of existence. "Watch," she said simply. The display showed the quantum transformation of human loss. Each destroyed colony, each life erased, became a node in a complex network that grew stronger with each moment of collective struggle. It wasn't just data. It was a living record of human resilience. Captain Maya Chen, her neural interfaces still humming with the collective consciousness of the battle, stood as a living testament to this transformation. Her body bore the quantum markers of multiple collective experiences, not scars, but connections. "We are not individuals," she explained to the stunned council. "We are a network, a living, breathing organism that spans entire star systems." The implications were staggering. Humanity had introduced a fundamental variable that no species had ever encountered, a form of consciousness that treated connection as its primary operating system. Quantum observatories continued to track the aftermath of the conflict. Where the convergence's dissolution weapon had attempted to erase human colonies, complex quantum networks continued to pulse with life. Lost settlements became quantum beacons, their emotional signatures creating patterns of resistance that defied every known principle of physics. Marcus's final analysis was both a scientific report and a philosophical revelation. Humanity doesn't just survive, he concluded. We transform. Every loss becomes a point of connection. Every moment of grief becomes a quantum gateway to something more. The Galactic Reconstruction Council fell silent. They were no longer looking at a species. They were witnessing the evolution of consciousness itself. The universe had just been rewritten. The quantum memorial of New Santiago rose from the recovered planetary fragments, not a traditional monument, but a living quantum network that defied every conventional understanding of remembrance. Dr. Elena Rodriguez walked its quantum pathways, her neural interfaces translating the memorial's complex emotional signatures. This was more than a memorial. It was a living archive of human experience, a testament to collective memory that transformed loss into something transcendent. Each quantum node represented a life lost in the convergence attack. But these weren't static memories. They were dynamic, interconnected experiences that continued to evolve, to communicate, to exist beyond traditional concepts of life and death. Alien researchers from across the galaxy studied the memorial with a mixture of terror and profound respect. Dr. Xanthar of the Nexus Collective, a being of pure computational consciousness, struggled to comprehend what humans had created. This is not a memorial, Xanthar observed to Elena. This is a living organism of collective consciousness. Elena smiled. Precisely. The memorial wasn't just a record of lives lost. It was a quantum network that continued to generate new connections, new understandings. Families separated by light years could touch the quantum nodes and experience the memories of those they had lost. Emotions became a form of faster-than-light communication that defied every known principle of physics. Colonel Camara Williams, now leading the Galactic Reconstruction Initiative, understood the deeper significance. The memorial represented something far more profound than historical preservation. It was a demonstration of humanity's fundamental approach to existence. We don't just remember, she often said. We transform memory into connection. Researchers from 100 different species came to study what humans had created. Some were terrified. Others were profoundly moved. The quantum memorial challenged every existing concept of consciousness, of memory, of the very nature of existence. Marcus Liu's ongoing research revealed layers of complexity that continued to astound the scientific community. The memorial wasn't just a record of past events. It was a living, evolving network that could generate new insights, new connections, new understandings. Watch, he would demonstrate to skeptical alien researchers. A visitor would touch a quantum node, representing a single life lost in the convergence attack, and suddenly experience a complex network of memories, emotions, potential futures. It wasn't just data retrieval. It was a form of quantum resurrection. The philosophical implications were staggering. Humanity had introduced a fundamental concept that no other species had ever encountered: consciousness as a collective, adaptive network that transcended individual existence. Captain Maya Chen, her body now more quantum network than traditional biological form, represented the living embodiment of this transformation. Her neural interfaces allowed her to move between individual consciousness and collective experience with fluid ease. We are not defined by our individual experiences, she would explain to the Galactic Councils. We are defined by our connections. The Quantum Memorial became more than a historical site. It was a living research facility, a diplomatic center, a philosophical proving ground that challenged every existing concept of consciousness, of memory, of the very nature of existence. Alien species began to study human social structures with a mixture of terror and profound respect. How could a species transform loss into a form of collective strength? How could emotional connections become a fundamental force of existence? As the quantum nodes pulsed with complex emotional signatures, one thing became clear: humanity had introduced something entirely new to the universe, a form of consciousness that treated connection as its primary operating system. The universe continued to recalculate. The Galactic Reconstruction Summit convened in a space unlike any diplomatic gathering in known history. The venue itself was a quantum adaptive environment that responded to the collective emotional states of its participants, a testament to humanity's fundamental reimagining of existence. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood at the center, no longer just a scientist, but a living bridge between humanity and the broader galactic community. Behind her, holographic displays showed the intricate quantum networks that now connected multiple species, multiple civilizations. "We are not conquerors," she began, her voice carrying the weight of millions of experiences. "We are connectors." The representatives from across the galaxy, crystalline intelligences, energy constructs, silicon-based life forms, listened with a combination of awe and trepidation. The convergence, once an unstoppable force of mathematical elimination, had been fundamentally transformed. Captain Maya Chen approached the podium, her body now a living quantum interface that blurred the lines between biological and technological existence. Each movement generated complex emotional signatures that rippled through the gathered species. "Survival is not about individual preservation," she explained. "It's about collective transformation." The summit was more than a diplomatic meeting. It was a fundamental reimagining of galactic relationships. The quantum technologies developed during the conflict were now being shared, not as weapons, but as tools of connection. Marcus Liu presented the breakthrough that would reshape civilizations. Quantum communication networks that could transmit not just information, but emotional experience. Species could now truly understand each other, not through translation, but through direct emotional resonance. Colonel Camara Williams revealed the next phase of human expansion. Instead of traditional colonization, humanity would create quantum network nodes, living diplomatic and scientific outposts that could adapt, communicate, and evolve in real time. The alien representatives struggled to comprehend the full implications. Humanity had introduced a fundamental variable to galactic existence, a form of consciousness that treated connection as its primary operating principle. A representative from the Nexus Collective attempted to quantify the transformation. "Your approach defies all known principles off." Alina's response was a quantum display that showed the intricate network of human experience. Loss, grief, love. These were no longer individual experiences. They were quantum gateways to broader understanding. "We don't just survive," she said simply. "We transform." The summit's final resolution was unprecedented. The Galactic Concordance would be restructured around principles of emotional connectivity. Diplomatic relations would no longer be based on mathematical probabilities, but on the ability to truly understand one another. The Quantum Memorial of New Santiago, once a site of total destruction, became the central hub of this new galactic understanding. It was a living testament to humanity's fundamental approach to existence. Marcus's final presentation demonstrated the true depth of human potential. Quantum networks that could resurrect lost cultural experiences, that could connect species across unimaginable distances, that could transform grief into a fundamental force of creation. "We are not defined by what we lose," Captain Chen concluded. "We are defined by how we connect." As the summit concluded, something extraordinary happened. The quantum adaptive environment began to pulse with a complex emotional signature that transcended individual species. It was a living demonstration of the new galactic paradigm. Humanity had done more than survive. They had fundamentally reimagined the nature of existence itself. The universe continued to recalculate, and for the first time in countless millennia, it looked forward to what might come next.